I think a lot of people have trouble with the fact that I'm a whiskey distiller, I grow hemp, right? And I officiated a same-sex wedding. So maybe I'm the sin congressman, right, for some people. But that is completely ridiculous, right? Because that's what a couple people called me.
In 2014, a Randolph-Macon professor named Dave Brat sent shockwaves across the country when he defeated House Majority Leader Eric Cantor in the Republican primary.
I want to give thanks endlessly tonight. This is the happiest moment, obviously, of my life.
Earlier this year, something similar happened in Virginia's vast 5th district when another Republican took down sitting Congressman Denver Riggleman. Now, Democrats think that rural district could be theirs for the taking.
This is our call to order for the 5th Congressional District Convention.
I honestly thought that to bring a CEO business mindset on how to grow the district would work, and it did. That's why I was so successful working across the aisle. It worked. What didn't work for me, as you can tell, is I have a really tough time speaking in political speech. And that's an issue.
I think that what they did to Congressman Denver Riggleman was awful. Denver Riggleman was congressman in Virginia's 5th district. He, conservative, 90% reliable conservative vote. They threw him out, the Republican Party did, in a drive-by convention, not a primary. Now, here in Virginia, you allow the parties to do conventions or primaries. And they threw out a sitting U.S. congressman because he married one of his staff members who happens to be gay. And of course, that didn't sit well with the base of the party.
What happened in this drive-through convention was you had a disenfranchising of hundreds of thousands of voters to try to limit it to a very small group of ideologues. And the reason they did that is I was impossible to beat in a primary. This district is so diverse. You have Fauquier County, you have the suburbs of D.C. all the way to the North Carolina border. Having a primary allows for the best candidate. Conventions pick usually the worst candidate. It's a race to the bottom because everybody wants you to run as far to the fringes as you can, and I refuse to do that. I don't have to. I don't owe anybody anything. I was never in politics. I don't need the paychecks. And I think that really worries people because I'm impossible to leverage.
They throw him out. It then becomes a seat now where they put in this guy named Bob Good who's running, and he's very conservative, teaches at Liberty, right?
I'm Bob Good. I wrestled growing up and coached for 15 years. And in Congress, I'll take down the bad ideas from Pelosi and the liberals. Government-run healthcare, I'll pin that idea.
A Dr. Cameron Webb, who is from Charlottesville, young doctor, kind of superstar, he won his primary. I think there were like 6 people in that primary on the Democrat side. He won, and this is going to be interesting because Obama carried that district the first time.
I've seen Washington focus on partisan fights instead of working together to put people over party. I'm Cameron Webb, and I approve this message.
To me, it is one of the most outrageous things I've seen the Republican Party of Virginia do to itself, to be so ridiculous that 90% of the guy agreeing with you is not enough for you. And now you may flip the seat and hand it to a Democrat who you're going to agree with maybe 30% of the time is ridiculous to me.
I would be very comfortable if I was the nominee in this election. Cameron Webb's a strong candidate. I'd beat him. And if we had a primary, I would have beat Bob Good. And I think it's interesting to me that a lot of people said, "Are you sad about it?" No. I got to be a congressman for the 5th District of Virginia. I got to do incredible things. I mean, who gets to be a congressman?
The people of that district feel that they want somebody that represents them. And enough people, I think, in that district felt, and I can only use the word betrayed because that's what some of them have said. I think they would say, hey, look, we're willing to stand on principle in believing that we can find someone else that will represent us.
How do you stop representing the district? You know, when you talk about my voting record, when you talk about $62 million for rural broadband, when you talk about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, when you talk about the Hemp Opportunity Zone Act, when you talk about the deregulation of hemp for agriculture, when you talk about the money for the community bank loan ratios where we can actually have more people loaning money in rural areas, when you talk about my rural housing bills, that is crap. Why? The only reason I'm here, right, and I'm not running is because I officiated a same-sex wedding. That's what they're afraid to say, right? The reason I lost is because I thought we should decriminalize marijuana. The reason I lost is because I voted to keep pre-existing conditions.
That district has gone back and forth over the last decade before, and so I think that they would rather send the message that, hey, we would rather want someone who is consistent with our principles from the Republican Party.
They're out of step with the demographics, they're out of step with the times, and they don't have coalitions that they can put together, because in a tight race, whether it's Freitas, whether it's Taylor, or whether it's in this race with Good and Dr. Cameron, what's going to happen is you got to be able to pull some women, you got to be able to pull some minorities to help you get enough to get over the top. And that's where the Republicans are falling short time and time again.
I never needed the paycheck. So if you think I'm going to be angry going back to hunting terrorists is what I'm going to do in January, or making whiskey, you have another thing coming. But I'm still going to look in the future for any opportunities I can to serve. If people want me, if they don't, that's fine too. You know, the sun's going to come up tomorrow whether I'm in politics or not.